This week's podcast is proudly sponsored by the Philips OLED Plus 935 TV, a new flagship OLED TV that combines the new AI Plus P5 processor with sound by Bowers & Wilkins to once again push the boundaries for outright picture and sound quality in a premium TV. To find out more, visit philips.com/OLED Plus.
Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast, streaming live on Wednesday, the 30th of September. I don't need to tell you it's 2020. Joining me tonight, Steve Withers.
I am a golden god.
Ed Selley.
When did you get so professional?
Tom Davies.
This is a house of lies.
And Kaz Harlow.
We don't want your forgiveness. We won't make excuses.
So we're streaming once again. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are joining us live, and I can see that the numbers are quite high at the minute, so thank you very much for turning up right at the start. It is appreciated. Yes, we are podcasting yet again on a Wednesday. This is going to be our regular date, so hopefully people are getting used to that now. I did notice that there was a slight drop last week, but people seem to be finding us yet again, so thank you very much for that. Of course, you can listen to us at any time during the week. You can do that via the audio version, and you can find that on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If we're not on a certain provider, also let us know, and we will make sure that the podcast is available via that provider. And you can do that via podcast@avforums.com. And any questions you have, you can also send them to that email address. If you are watching us on YouTube, remember that you can subscribe to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, click the bell and you'll be notified every time we publish a video. And also the most important thing this evening is please like the video. That is the most important thing. If you like the video, it helps the podcast get found in search results and so on. It brings new people into our podcast and AVForums and introduces them to the community. So if you could do that, it really would be appreciated. Also remember that you can become a regular patron for £3 a month. You can do that via patreon.com/AVForums. And if you have any questions this evening that you would like the team to answer, the best way to grab our attention and focus it towards the question is to add a small donation via streamlabs.com/AVForums. And donations since we were last live, Brendan Murphy, sorry, I was going to say Murray, it's not, it's Murphy, became a patron. Thank you very much, Brendan. That really is appreciated. And he has a question. It's a rather long question, so I'm not going to read the whole question out, but basically Brendan is, he's got a 5.1 system, which he's updated to 7.1. He can use ceiling speakers, potentially go 714. Although he's got a new Yamaha receiver, a 2080, and it can only do 712. The space is 16 foot by 12 foot. So do you think 712, he should go that way, or should he go for the full hog and add as many ceiling speakers? I know Steve will say as many as you can. My advice, that's almost the same room dimensions that I have. I'm about 18 feet by 13, so I have a 712 system at the moment. The overhead speakers are towards the rear of the room, and I find that to be particularly good in my system. I could add two at the front. I've just never gotten around to it because Atmos sounds just as good as 712 in the space, and it sounds like you've got about the same space. I don't know what your ceiling height is. My ceiling height's 9 feet, so there is a little bit of distance there, a little bit of space, but that's what I'd go for. That would be my opinion. Steve's going to be completely different and say add as many speakers as you can, aren't you, Steve?
No, I'm not. No. 7.1.2, like you said, it's exactly the same as you've got. And given the size of that space, I think that'll do the job nicely. And he's got a Sony XH95, which is a great projector as well. So that, I think they'll have a good little system there with a 100-inch screen.
Yeah, and Brendan also says he loves the podcast. And finally, have you ever noticed how Phil says it'll be interesting to see what happens per podcast? Let's count. Okay, well, be interested to see what happens with that. Right, so moving on.
Genius of a whole new drinking game.
Yeah, it's not much fun though if you're on the non-alcoholic stuff though, is it, Ed?
Yes, just I need to go to the loo more.
But yes, if you want to become a patron or give us a donation and a question, you can do that on the links that I've already told you about. And doing so, you help us grow AVForums, improve the site speed, features, editorial, and one of these days we're going to make a good podcast. Not today though.
One day a lemming will fly.
Yeah. So thank you very much for your support. And we're going to move on to what we've done this week. And before we do that, there has been a bit of sad industry news today. And Ed's going to tell us all about that because we have lost a well-known journalist and editor.
Yes. Andy Clough, who was for many years the editor of What Hi-Fi, and then moved into more of an oversight and directorial role. He sadly lost his fight with cancer, and no great age in the great scheme of things, 58.
No, he's 6 years older than me.
Well, yeah.
So not old at all.
So it is a shame. Now, you know, I'm aware that on occasions What Hi-Fi comes in for some flack, but Andy is responsible in large part for a number of things that matter to us in the industry now. It was, you know, picking up beyond something being quite well bolted together. Was it actually, you know, in any way user friendly, and so on and so forth, and pushing, you know, helping to push the idea that it wasn't, you know, just little boxes made in sheds for hobbyists. He's, you know, it casts a long shadow in that regard. A genuinely nice human being. Didn't suffer fools badly, but you know, I don't regard that as a downside. He had a particular art for asking exactly the right questions, exactly the right time in press conferences. It was like throwing a grenade. So he was extremely good at that, and yes, is sorely missed. You know, someone who has helped form the industry into the shape that it is now. So yeah, something of a loss.
Yeah, and anybody that's in the industry knows Andy. He was always there at press launches or CES or any of the big events, IFA, so on, Bristol show. Andy was always around. I unfortunately didn't have the time to sit and speak to Andy for any length. The press trips he was on and so on. He was always kind enough to come up and say hello and ask how you were doing and so on. And that's about as much of my relationship with Andy, but he's very well thought of in the industry. And I know Steve will have, you know, bumped shoulders with him quite a few times.
Yeah, I know. I've obviously been on a number of press trips with him, but I also spent an entire day with him. The two of us are running an event for Samsung once. And lovely bloke, really nice guy. And yeah, that's very sad news.
Yeah, it is. So from everybody at AVForums, our condolences to Andy's friends, family, and obviously his colleagues at What Hi-Fi. Yeah, very sad news. So let's move on. And Ed, what have you been up to this week?
Well, can we be clear about this? The date today is the 30th of September. There are still 4 hours and 51 minutes of September left. And what did I email you earlier today, Phil?
Yes, I've got all your reviews for next month. In fact, more reviews than you.
6 reviews with bespoke photography up and on the content management system in the month I was supposed to do them. Mark this day, ladies and gentlemen, because it probably won't happen again for a while. So yeah, that's mainly one of the things I've been doing over the last couple of days.
You'll be living on this for months now, won't you, Ed? You know,
No,
you remember September when I...
It's just a reminder that it is technically possible for me to do it from time to time. So that's been occupying me for the better part of this week. I mean, you know, that's been turning out, getting through a fair bit of copy, getting it shot, and all sorts of other bits and bobs. So I hope that that proves of use to people and interest to people once it does go up. Otherwise, it's just been me. I made an absurdly complicated soup at the weekend because it's now the weather's closed in and I enjoy that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's been more of the same. But I'm settling into my you know, poor weather routine now, and I'm happy enough with that. And I can already see that it's you can see on the video, my arm is moving up and down because the cat is now on me. The cat is a single color, so he tends not to show up on the background. But it's not just me gesticulating or indeed playing with myself. So that's what's going on there. But that's me at this point.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Ed.
Yes.
Anything else going on there, or have you, like me, been stuck in the house?
No, that's largely been it. But
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I'm quite pleased with this month's products. The most expensive product is £1,600. The least expensive product is £229, and there's some absolute blinders in there. So if nothing else, yes, I haven't got out much, but at least I've had some interesting things to tinker about with.
Okay. Am I the only one on the podcast that's under restrictions at the minute? Is everybody else?
As far as I know, the Good Burgers
Yes.
Milton Keynes are still allowed out at the moment.
All
so,
right.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm the only one under tighter restrictions. So
Yes.
at
I
the
think there were
minute.
42 COVID cases in Wiltshire, so I don't think it's a big issue.
All right. Okay. Well, I think it's something like 175 per 100,000 where I am at the minute.
No,
so
there were
that's-
42 total.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a bit more rural. So this is the strange thing. Obviously, they're looking at the cities like Sunderland and Newcastle and so on, but they've roped in Northumbria, they've roped in, or Northumberland, as you guys would know it. They've roped in obviously Newcastle, Sunderland, and County Durham. And we don't really fit, I don't think. And like I say, I'm rural, so it's not like
I blamed Dominic Cummings for that trip up to see you guys.
Yeah, that's it. You
Yeah.
came to Barnard Castle. That's a problem.
He's a
Yeah.
super spreader.
Yeah. So this week I've actually been catching up some movies. And using the cinema room because I've managed to get rid of a lot of the TVs that were sitting around in the room at the minute. You can see there's one TV that's behind me at the minute, and that is a 48-inch LG, and it looks tiny in this room after weeks and weeks of having 65-inch TVs next to each other and so on. It's tiny, but I've also got some kit that's going back, and there's a sound bar that's turned up. So that's turned up for video review. So we'll be doing that. Steve's already reviewed it, but we're going to do a
We've
video
already
review.
reviewed it. But,
We're going to do a video review with that one. I'm waiting on 2 Samsung TVs turning up. Don't know when they're going to turn up, but an 8K and a 4K. And that's about it. So the cinema rooms, I've been able to get in there. So I've been spending a lot of time this week with the NAD T778. Been playing around a lot with it, streaming wise and so on, using Blue OS, and also sitting and watching some movies that I haven't seen before as well. So I'm working my way through the
like
Marvel. Well, I'm working my way through Marvel at the minute, Steve. So I've seen quite a few of the Marvel movies, but there's a lot of Marvel movies that I haven't seen. So Winter Soldier, I'd never seen that. So what I'm doing is I'm actually working my way through chronologically the Marvel movies and watching the ones that I haven't seen yet. So I've Winter Soldier.
That's one of the best ones, Phil.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Top 3.
Yeah,
I'd agree with
like
that.
one. Yeah, really like that one. Age of Ultron. It was okay. And then what was the other one I watched last night?
Doctor Strange?
No, I've got Doctor Strange to do. I've got Ant-Man and Doctor Strange to do. And then another Avengers one that I haven't seen. So
it's a really nice.
Was it Civil War?
Civil War. I've still to see Civil War. So
there's a really nice thread going on for. Well, it's the thread on the forums for the Doctor Strange sequel, Multiverse of Madness. But there's been a good conversation on there the last couple of days of people sort of rediscovering it and realizing that actually for a formulaic like B-list Marvel movie, it's probably one of the best. It's super enjoyable. Like on a rewatch.
What I've found enjoyable is that obviously I've seen Endgame, so I know how it all ends.
You know how it ends then.
so actually going back, and there was a lot of characters in those last 2 movies that I wasn't aware of because I hadn't seen Winter Soldier.
You must have been wondering what the hell was going on.
Who are you?
I just went with it. I just thought, another superhero. But actually going back now and being introduced to those characters, seeing where they've come from and so on, and at what point they're introduced, I'm finding that really quite entertaining as well. So and there's not a bad movie amongst them, to be honest with you. They're all well produced. They're all really nicely shot. They look great, even on Disney Plus. They look great. They sound great with Atmos and so on. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. Haven't left the house. So Tom, what have you been doing?
I've had a birthday this week. It's been very exciting.
So what are you, 15, 16 now?
Yep, I'm 43.
Tot off.
I turned
Is there a
36.
painting of you in the attic that ages instead?
It's this de-aging filter that's on his phone. That's what it is.
Yeah, facial smoothing. So yeah, I got a whole bunch of physical media. That was nice. Some socks, a Hobbit.
Do they count as physical
glass.
media?
What socks? Socks, totally. Yeah.
Right, fine, okay.
Please try and
Was
feed
someone
them.
being ironic, or did you actually need some socks?
No, I do. I love socks as a present. Don't you?
No, because I buy no, because
not
actually,
present.
do you know what tomorrow is? Tomorrow, 1st of October, is when I do what I do every year on the 1st of October, which is buy another 10 pairs of Pringle socks on Amazon, dispense with the old Pringle socks, and continue there it is. So anyone purchasing me additional socks is
Now, you
It's
see,
just
if I
superfluous.
knew you were a Pringles man, I could help you out because obviously my hometown is the home of Pringle. So
Well, you said this, but I think that the socks don't come from there anymore.
no,
they come from China.
Nine Pringle comes from Hoik anymore, but Hoik used to be the place.
But I mean, we've had this. I've mentioned this existential struggle before because I don't care about golf, and I think that it destroys television schedules, or at least it did until it disappeared off the satellite. But if golf didn't exist, then Pringle wouldn't exist, and Pringle make the best socks in the world. So
I'll take your word for it. I've got my socks are darn tough socks, and they come with a lifetime guarantee.
You see, no, they don't. They, I mean,
No,
what
they
that
don't
means
because
is
you'll
they-
lose. You won't have a matching pair, but amongst them.
If you get a hole in the sock, you can write off, and they'll send you another pair for free.
But they won't give you. It's not. You won't get a hole in them. What happens though is that they just become formless horrors, and it's just like trying to put an unlatexed condom on your foot.
Oh, Ed, lighten up.
It's
I've got these don't ruin my present for me. I've got lifetime guarantee socks. I'm really excited about it.
Excellent. We'll need regular sock updates then.
I will.
so-
I'll give them to you. I promise.
But I now believe that you are the age that you are. If we're talking about socks, Dom.
100% love socks. I also got some video games. I got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, both of which have been reviewed on the website, and both of which are amazing. Ghost of Tsushima is like an open world feudal Japan samurai version of Red Dead Redemption.
Really, I thought it was just an online fox petting game based on all the
Ooh,
photos I see.
I haven't got to the fox petting, but I'm quite looking forward to that. But it comes with a really exciting film ponce mode where you can, you've got all the beautiful graphics, lovely colors. It's HDR, so it's really nice. But you can turn on Akira Kurosawa mode, in which all the lights are dimmed. It's in black and white, and there's film scratches all over it. So that's how I'm playing it. It's
You
brilliant.
amaze me. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I've been up to this week is a new Thumbs video went up today. And it's the first
I
one.
just see Daniel's just said he really enjoyed it.
So well done, you.
You got a
Yeah,
fan now.
it's the first one that I can actually sit and watch through without cringing. So either it's the best one, or I'm finally dead inside.
And if you want a sneak peek of Tom's Thumbs, become a patron, because if you're a patron, you get to see them ahead of time. So there you go.
Yeah. What else have I done? Oh, I've read some books. I reread Turn of the Screw in advance of The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is out.
Is that what it's based on?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's going to be based on it in the same way that The Haunting of Hill House is based. So
that's fine.
they'll-
That's fine. I thought
yeah, they'll keep locations and character names and basically probably dispense with most of the plot.
The
in
Haunting of
favour
Hill
of-
House was really good. So
Yeah, I loved it as well. I really did. But yeah, it's an adaptation in name only. But it's a good reread. It's just a novella. It only took me a couple of days. And I'm also thinking of getting hold of a copy of The Right Stuff to read before that
I've read
airs
that.
on D Plus next month.
it's good.
Wouldn't be too difficult to secure.
You could just
Okay.
watch Mick Halton's film from 1984.
I might do that as well.
I found out I'd never seen it.
Good God.
Yeah, Kaz thought it was Capricorn 1.
Yeah, for ages I thought it was Capricorn 1. I was like, yeah, I'm down to review the
I
TV
blame
series.
I
I
love
know
Capricorn
everything
1.
about
I
it.
love
Yeah.
Capricorn one.
Yeah,
I
love
blame it
Capricorn,
solely
but
for moon landing conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
They
no, it is.
exploded up.
It
Yeah,
pretty
it's-
much is. Yeah.
That's the genesis point of it all.
Yeah, it does. So I was thinking it was going to be about a conspiracy theory.
But no,
But no, apparently it's not.
the heartwarming story of 7 men who travel almost to certain death. Enjoy that.
Well, 6 men because one never got up.
Oh yeah, that's true. No, it was 8. It was
Well, he
8 down
did
to 7.
Ultimate.
It was 8 down to
so it's
7.
Mercury 7, and then
Yeah,
one of them had
But
a heart condition.
initially, the initial training group was 8. Look it up.
Was it?
Steve's going to come in with that.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't
shut
know
up.
Please
about
do. Okay.
There were lots of people, but they only selected 7 for the actual
You
program.
guys are ruining it for me. I'm telling you now.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so what have you been up
Mercury
to?
Six.
Ruining something that
Mercury
happened in the early
5.
60s has already been covered in the
Wasn't
book. and the
alive
film.
there, Steve.
Well,
Spoilers
was
for the
I, but I
60s.
still know who the Mercury 7 are.
Kaz, I'm with you on that one. What have you been doing this week?
Not a great deal. Watching a lot of TV, a lot of review stuff, catching up on TV shows I'd missed. I hadn't watched Lovecraft Country, despite Tom's recommendations, which I tend to take quite personally because I'm like, damn, I didn't review that. I instead had to watch something terrible on Netflix. But I've decided to bite the bullet. I watched his, I'm calling it Tom's, but he didn't actually write or direct it, but Devil All the Time, and I watched Lovecraft County, and just slowly working my way through. I haven't watched Thinking of Ending Things yet. And countless reviews coming in, including what landed today, which was the Has Fallen 4K box sets, available in Germany only. So Angel Has Fallen came out in 4K, but the other two, Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, haven't come out in 4K. And they seem like reasonable candidates, albeit a bit Expendables-y in the sense that they were always a bit grainy. Germany have done a terrible job on the 4K. It's a bit like
so you've gone to the effort of securing something only available in one country, and it's back in
they ship.
Most of these German ones are a bit crap. Why? I don't know why you bothered.
Well, because it's the only release, and I thought if they're, they unlike the Iron Mans, they come with Dolby Vision. I thought they'd put a halfway decent attempt. What they've basically done is they've scrubbed them to death with DNR, and then shed loads of excessive HDR and Dolby Vision on top just to make it look really pretty. I mean, it does look really pretty. I reckon if you watch it on a 50-inch screen from about 25 foot, it would look really pretty special. But any closer, and it looks like an upscale DVD.
Okay. Anything else?
Anyway, yeah, I've been doing that. I found out something that's been bugging me on and off for 40 years. So I have a childhood memory of playing in a sandpit with my mates and playing with a Lotus Esprit, okay, a white Lotus Esprit from James Bond.
Yeah.
And it fully converts into a submarine.
Yeah, and it fires a missile out the back.
In the last 40 years, all I've come across is those ones that half convert. Okay, when they're in the car form, you can still see that they're submarines because the wheels are covered. And yesterday, I found out that 20 years ago, they did release a massive James Bond Lotus Esprit.
So hang on a second, 20 years ago, so what, you were playing in a sandpit with your friend in your early 20s?
No, 20 years ago.
You said 20 years ago
it was available. Yeah, 20 years ago it was available.
So back in the 70s when we were kids, because I remember I had the toy as well. The wheels, there was wheels, but they were covered up. Yeah. There weren't real wheels. It fired the missile and it did everything else, but there wasn't wheels. 20 years ago, it must be a 118 scale then, if you're saying
a 118 Ertl one that fully converts. I mean, yeah, you have to spend like 400 quid to get off eBay, so it's a pipe dream at the moment. But the fact that my memory of that from when I was about 5 is intact, because I was starting to doubt myself and it was affecting my work and my relationships. And anyway, I found that out the other day. So there you go. That's it.
Fascinating.
Well, it's about cars.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. We'll come on to Top Gear, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, cars. Right. So let's move on to Steve.
What have I been doing? Well, I blame Tom for this, but I watched Warrior Nun, which I have to say I quite enjoyed it, except like a lot of Netflix shows and TV
bit
shows.
Baggy.
No, not so much about it was baggy, but it ends on a cliffhanger. It's like,
yeah, that's true.
Give me an ending. So I'm watching that. I've been watching. Well, we'll come on to it later, but some other stuff. Apart from that, though, a bit of work and a few movies. Not much really, to be honest.
Have you gone outside?
Well, yes. I had to take the car in to be MOT'd on Monday, so I went into Bath for the first time since I think February.
Okay. And was it good, or did you just avoid everybody?
Well, I had a coffee in Starbucks and socially distanced.
Good God! So you haven't gone anywhere for half a year, and you go and have a horrible bucket of piss in Starbucks.
It was the nearest place, and it was nice and spacious, and it wasn't too busy.
Are we supposed to say there's other?
There is anything else available, up to and including drinking out of a drain.
Costa Coffee is better, so if Costa Coffee are listening, I will welcome free coffee from you.
Yeah.
Support your local independents who know one end of a coffee machine from another and don't store their beans in the bin.
Yeah, they're all
Just throwing
broke.
it out there.
Right, so that's what we've been up to this week.
Sorry, I was going to say a couple of things, Phil.
All right.
I think the clue's in the name, but 3D Blu-ray Bunker did say, and I do agree with him, if you're going to watch Phase 3 Marvel movies, watch them on 3D Blu-ray because the 3D is excellent, particularly Doctor Strange.
I don't have 3D Blu-ray,
I know, you're
although
watching them on,
the projector is 3D capable, so and I've still got a 3D player, so I could, if you want to send your 3D discs up to me, Stephen, never see them again.
No.
I'll quite happily do that.
They can join the piles of despair.
Yeah, I mean, Kaz still thinks he's getting his Fast and the Furious box set.
Yeah,
back.
I did suddenly remember that.
Yeah, it's in the post, Kaz. But obviously with COVID and everything, it's taking a little bit
It's
longer.
taking its time 6 months later. Mind you, I did say I want it back in time for the next movie. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
bought
so
yourself
it's
one
been
You've got
time,
plenty of time there.
2022, yeah.
Ages.
Ages yet.
Just a quick one for Licensed Taxi Man, by the way. You mentioned Disney's Onward is on Disney Plus now. Yeah, it came out at the cinema in March.
He's talking about the other ones, and it's Soul or something like that.
Soul might well turn up.
Yeah,
someone's
but
asked
probably.
Someone's
Not
asked about the
probably.
box office for Tenet and Mulan, which I guess we can come back to during the film section.
Yeah, we'll do that. And of course, if you have got questions and so on, and you want them to pop up and we notice them, you can do that with a small donation. So remember to do that, streamlabs.com/AVForums. And if you want to win something, Kazi's got some prizes for you.
Sure. You can win a copy of the limited edition A Trip to the Moon Blu-ray box set. That closes 16th of October. You can win
I want that. I'm entering that competition. I want that.
Your other
Yeah, okay, you
two.
can't win it because it's going to Tom. You can win a copy of King of Staten Island. That closes on Blu-ray. That closes 9th of October. You can win a copy of Criterion's September titles on Blu-ray. Safety Last, Showboat, Beau Travail closes 6th of October. I'll be setting one up for the October titles tomorrow. And stay tuned for the podcast exclusive competition to win a Sony Blu-ray bundle, including Venom and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. All competitions open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK. Got a couple of winners. AV Martin won a copy of Flack Season 2, and Bring Back Vinyl won a copy of Once Were Brothers on Blu-ray.
Okay, good stuff. Well done if you won those competitions. And of course, there's lots more to win there. That Sony bundle looks okay. Yeah, so get yourselves in for that. And we'll be back in a sec with hardware. So we're back with hardware, and we've got some reviews to do this evening. Well, I go first because it's a TV review. I'll crack on with this one. I won't take too long because I'm actually just about finished writing the review up, and it will be up on the site probably over the weekend, if not before that. So I won't go into it in too much detail, but it is the Sony XH95, or if you're on the other side of the pond, it's the X950H. I believe that's the US.
That's so confusing.
It is. Just name them the same worldwide, and it saves a lot of confusion. But obviously, this is a new flagship 4K LCD TV from Sony. It has a full array local dimming backlight. It has 63 zones, or that's how many zones I counted. But with Sony, they're one of the hardest screens to actually count accurately with a
And they won't tell you
counter.
the number either, will they?
They will not tell you. They will not tell you anything about the TVs, which is really quite annoying. But I did count it. I counted it a few times, and I settled on 63. So it has got 63 dimming zones. It also has Extended Dynamic Range Pro. It's a triluminous display, X wide angle technology. So the X wide angle technology comes down to the 55 and 65 inch models this year. It was only on the 75 and 85 last year. They have changed it because I did a review of the ZF9 probably about 2 years ago, which was the first Sony TV to introduce their wide-angled technology, their filter that they put on. So, you know, it's a VA panel, but with this filter, you can get off-axis, and the colors and contrast and gamma stay relatively perfect until you get well off. So you can get to about 40, 50 degrees off axis before you start to get any shift in the color and so on. So they have changed it because what it did on the ZF9 was it affected the contrast ratio basically. So you had this filter, but it made blacks look a little bit creamy, if that makes sense. They were a little bit lighter than they should be, weren't as dark as they should be. And the contrast just wasn't there. It was really quite noticeable. This year, that's changed. It really, you can hardly notice the filters there until you get off axis. The contrast performance is a lot better. Obviously, you've got X motion clarity, which has been on the Sony LCDs for a while. It moved over to OLED this year. So the 120 hertz on the OLED, X motion clarity on the Sony. It's backlight blinking. Like I say, full array local dimming. I'm trying to see if I've missed any of the technologies that Sony like to call X, whatever it is, super bit mapping and that kind of thing. So the usual on the Sony, and I've got to say, it's very, very similar to the XG95 from last year in terms of the design and so on. The stands are right at the edge. So I had a 65-inch right at the edge. It was too big for my TV stand. Luckily, you can actually flip them around so they come in a little bit. So you can fit them onto your TV stand. The problem with that is it gets in the way of the downward firing speakers. There's new drivers. So just bear that in mind. You're probably better having a wider surface if you're going to have this TV and have the stands right at the end. Another thing is it suits the design better with the stands right out at the end, because once you start watching the TV, you forget that the stand's actually there. It has wide color gamut, high dynamic range, so high dynamic range, so HDR10, hybrid log gamma, Dolby Vision. There's no HDR10 plus support, but I wouldn't expect that from Sony. In terms of picture modes, custom mode is their go-to if you want accuracy out of the box. Very, very accurate out of the box. But they are not supporting filmmaker mode, and they're not supporting Dolby Vision IQ. So those are not on this TV. But like I say, custom mode is very, very accurate out of the box. In fact, it was Delta E2 across the board. That's out of the box. Just a little bit too much blue, which kind of pushed the color gamut slightly across towards cyan and blue. But to be honest with you, with the Delta E so low, unless you're a trained eye and look at these things all the time, you would never notice it. Not, you know, a normal member of the forums is not going to notice it unless you sit and look at calibrated images all day. HDMI wise, it's 2.0B. There is eARC support on HDMI 3. There are no other HDMI 2.1 features, which is a little bit strange, seeing as the PS5 is on the way this year. So that is a little bit strange. And like I say, in terms of measurements, calibration, very, very good. HDR wise, 1125 nits on a 10% window. Full 100% white with 624 nits. There's only one tone mapping that the Sony uses for PQE-OTF, so it tone maps the same for 1000 and 4000 nit content, which is basically, it tracks ST84 standard all the way and then hard clips. So for 1000 nit content, you're going to see everything in the specular highlights. Specular highlights are going to be nice and bright. You're going to see detail in there. For 4000 nits, very good again, but the brightest part of the image, the real specular highlights, they are going to be clipped of any detail. So they will be bright and white, but you won't see any details. I'm thinking edges of clouds and so on, where on the 1000 nit version, you will see detail in there. On the 4000 nit, it clips that away, so you miss out on it. But you're talking at the brightest point of the image, you're really not going to notice. It's a nice dynamic image. The problem, and there are some downsides because there's no such thing as perfect TV. It's an LCD TV with a foul backlight. And what Sony tend to do is the exact opposite of what Samsung do with their foul backlight. So Samsung have a really aggressive local dimming, which keeps the black bars nice and solid and black. But what that tends to do is it tends to create a vignette-like effect for the rest of the image. So round about the edges, a little bit darker, brighter towards the center. And their way of doing things is it keeps the black bars nice and black. It creates a poppy image, but it does crush blacks. And if you have difficult scenes where you have characters moving in and out of dark scenes and so on, it will cover up shadow detail and so on because of the local dimming and the algorithm that Samsung use on their TV. What Sony tend to do is they go for what the professional monitor shows. So their whole intention is creator's intent. However, that means that the black bars are not black because they're trying to give you as much detail as possible within the image. lots of shadow detail and so on, and it adds a fantastic depth to the image with that approach. But what you find is that the black bars are not black, and if you've got something bright, a bright object next to the black bars, then the black bars light up. So that is a downside. It puts me off in terms of, I find it distracting. If I'm watching a scope film, I would like to see the black bars solid black. They're not on this TV, but the image contained within the black bars is fantastic in terms of shadow detail and so on. I mean, it's really, really nice. And I did see a demo at CES with the BVM monitor next to this TV, and they looked identical in terms of color and so on. But the black bars do light up. So bear that in mind. If you're using it in a brightly lit room, you probably won't notice as much. But if you're like me and you like to watch your movies with a little bit of bias light, which we're going to come on to in a second, then you will notice the black bars lighting up. And I personally find it distracting, although it has improved this year. The contrast performance is so much better over the ZF9 with using the wide viewing angles and so on. So it's a cracking TV. The 65-inch is just a tad under $2,000. It's a lot of money. I would go and see one and make sure if you watch a lot of scope movies, which seems to be most movies these days, there's not a lot of movies made open matte nowadays, unless they're IMAX shot. So it's going to be most movies. So if you are a movie fan, I would go and see one before dropping that kind of coin on this TV. But I've got to say, in terms of image quality, Sony knock it out of the park. They're almost as good as Panasonic when it comes to, director's intent and color performance and so on. So I said I wasn't going to take long. I did. I lied. There
Yeah,
you go.
we knew you were lying. Don't worry.
But one of the advantages of this technology is the fact that you get bright HDR, and HDR does look really, really good. And I know you'll back me up on this one, Steve. When you see an actual panel that's able to do peak brightness where there's not a lot of tone mapping involved, it just adds another dimension to HDR that takes advantage of it. And like I said last week and the week before, not all HDR is equal. Some directors of photography, like Deakins, hates HDR. So if you watch any of his films, maximum 200, 250 nits. But there are discs out there. I mean, Pan's a good one. I hate terrible film, but as a disc, it's been a demo disc for a long time, and obviously it's a 4,000 nit master. Lots of stuff in there. Something like that on a display like this, Steve, it really does have that impact.
Yeah, definitely. When you're looking at a display, and I'm talking largely here about LCD displays that can go to very high peak levels of peak brightness, plus also because of that, a much larger color volume, because they can deliver a wide color gamut up to a higher brightness. That can give, I mean, the one I always use, because it's a very colorful film, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And it looks awesome on a really good display, because there's so much color and detail in the image, and it really pops with almost like 3D, the levels of detail in it. And so when it's done really well, it can look amazing. Unfortunately, as you said last week, Phil, a lot of people are buying HDR TVs now, in inverted commas, because they can accept an HDR signal, they'll tone map, but they really don't have the capabilities to deliver what I would consider to be a genuine HDR image. And so a lot of people come back disappointed and think like, oh, that didn't look particularly good. And that's the reason, really. Is unfortunately a lot of TVs are being marketed as HDR TVs, but their capabilities are well below what you really need as a minimum to deliver a really impressive, poppy, contrasty, detailed, and colourful HDR image. So unfortunately, that's the nature of the market. But when you see it on a really good display, and it's capable of delivering a really high peak brightness, it can be quite impressive.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, the only downside is the black bars. It is annoying. It's annoying to me, but you might not notice it. So people's mileage is going to vary. I have to mention it in the review, because if I didn't mention it, then I'd be accused of not mentioning things. So we mention everything in the reviews. Whether it's going to work for you or not, you really should go and, especially if you spend $2,000, go and check it out. Somebody was saying, how did we get 63 zones? It's basically 7x9.
Yeah, I assume it's 7x9.
Yeah. Seven vertical and 9 horizontal. So yeah, that's the Sony. So I was talking a little bit about bias lighting there. It's a great feature. Everybody should have it on their TV. If you watch TV in a dark room or a dim room, The benefits of bias lighting is that it relaxes the eye, so you don't get tired. Because if you're watching something and it's changing contrast all the time, so bright to dark, your eye is opening and closing, and that's why you feel tired if you're watching movies like that in a dark room. So Steve's been sent a nice little product, a professional product that's used in a lot of grading suites and so on. Not that expensive, and
No,
I take it it's
cool.
nice and easy to use.
Very. Yeah, you're right, Fab. Just to clarify, I suppose people tend to think, oh, I should, I'm watching a movie, I should turn all the lights out in the lounge and make the room as dark as possible, which is absolutely the case if you're using a projector. But TVs are very bright, way, way, way brighter than a projector. So you don't want to be looking at a massively bright image in a pitch black room. And even if you go into professional, mastering suites, they will have bias lighting behind the monitors when they're doing the grade, because it is a more comfortable viewing experience, and B, this is not the case with professional suites, but if your TV does have slightly ropey black levels and contrast, adding a bit of bias lighting can actually make that look better in terms of the perception of your contrast in your TV. So there's two reasons for doing it. One is for a more comfortable viewing experience, and the other is to perhaps slightly improve the contrast performance of less capable displays. Now, there's bias lighting in the sense of just having a neutral D65 light behind the TV. There's obviously Ambilight, which is a Philips proprietary technology, which is essentially bias lighting built into the TV. And you can select an ISF D65 white backlight, bias light, or you can go for the full all singing or dancing disco show behind your TV. When I'm talking about bias lighting here, I'm talking about just having a neutral D65 white light behind the television. I'm not talking about it changing color with the image on the screen. So this is, as you say, Phil, a professional product. It's made by a company called MediaLight. They make a whole range of products. They're a US company, so they just started doing stuff in the UK. So at the moment, I don't think they have their full range available, but they will have their full range available eventually. And the product I was looking at is called the MediaLight Mk2 Flex. So essentially what you get is, I think it actually might be a reel-to-reel reel with an LED strip on it. So it's just a strip, and you can buy in different lengths: 1 meter, 2 meter, 4 meter, and 6 meter, I think. So I got the 6 meter length.
How much was that, Steve?
I'm going to come to that. £89 basically, right, for the 6 meter. And now that's for the LED strip. You also get a USB connector with an on-off switch, so you can plug the LED switch strip into your USB power supply on the TV to supply. If you don't have that, or it doesn't provide enough power, then it does come with a plug adapter as well. Now, the one I got sent was from the US, so it was a US style plug. I'm assuming the UK ones, when they start selling them, will be with a UK plug. So you can either plug it into a wall socket or just plug it into the USB socket. USB socket should be fine. Most modern TVs will generate enough power, and they're designed to run off of a USB socket, so it should be fine. Also get a remote control. So I'm going to put this, if you can see it. No, it's not coming up. Hang on.
No, you did. You saw it.
Yeah, you can't. You get a little remote control with it, so you can either have the on-off switch, or you can put a little IR receiver that goes between the on-off switch and the LED strip, and then you can control it. So basically, you have plus or minus on brightness, or you can just select 100%, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%, and 10%. So and you can turn it on and off as well. I'll be honest, I've generally just left it on. So when I turn the TV on, it just comes on behind the TV. But if you want to adjust the brightness, you can. I actually find it quite useful, not just for providing bias light, but also as a way of lighting up the room. So I don't bother with a corner light anymore. This is specifically designed to deliver D65 light. So I did put a meter up against it. It is D65 6500 Kelvin. And that's important because you're getting a nice neutral light behind the TV. Now, obviously, the light's reflecting off my rear wall, which is technically white, a little off white these days. That will affect your perception of the white color of white. But basically, it's providing a neutral white behind the TV, which provides a more comfortable viewing experience and so I've got an OLED, so it doesn't make a lot of difference there. But if you've got a TV that hasn't got great contrast, it can make it look better actually. Also, it's dead easy to install. Going back to Ed's previous question, the strips have got sticky backing. You just literally start near the start with the end that's got the USB attachment. Start near the where the USB socket is on the TV, and then just work your way around the inside edge, about 2 inches away from the outer edge of the television behind it on the back panel. Stick it on, and you can turn them at right angles at the corners as you go around, and you end up back where you started, and there's any excess, you just cut it off. There's a little joins where you can cut to break the connection, and then that's literally it. It took me 5 minutes, and the results are superb. It works really well. I'm delighted with it, actually. I think if you want to get a really professional bias light, I mean, I know you can go out and just buy LED strips, but the whole point of this is that it's easy to install. You've got a remote control with it, and you're getting absolutely accurate D65 white behind the TV, which is what they would use, and they do use, because this is what this company sells them to professional installations. In mastering suites, this is what they will use to put bias lighting behind their.
I have to say, this breaks the habit of a lifetime for things that you review, in so much as it is of genuine interest to me, and I might wind up buying one.
Well, it's not just the strips as well. I mean, obviously, it's only the strips that they're selling at the moment in the UK, but everything is ISF certified, and they do light bulbs as well.
Yes.
So if you've got lights in your room, which most people do, you can replace your bulbs with D65 light in your room as well. So I want one of them for my desk here, because it's.
I think I've been converted, Steve. I think I'm actually going to go and get a bias light now. Yes, you've won me over.
The single most successful review.
Yeah, but it's Steve's most unbiased review.
Oh,
Good.
God. He's here all week, folks.
No, anyone who watches a lot of TV, and I think that's all of the people on, maybe not Ed, but everyone else on this podcast.
Yeah,
I watch enough TV, and the lighting in this room is arranged in such a way as I'm looking at that and thinking, yes, that is of genuine use to me. So
yeah.
I mean, given that, sorry, I was going to say Kaz and Tom watch a lot of TV shows and movies, you guys should definitely invest.
Yeah. And they can get quite cranky because obviously they're tired because they've been watching lots of TV, so it would help a lot.
It's going to make The Last Days of American Crime look so much better, so Tom can watch it again.
Now, there are a few drawbacks to bias lighting, which I think we need to bring up as well before we finish on your review, Steve. So one of them is that if you have the bias lighting too high behind the TV, you will create black crush. Even though your TV's not crushing black, your perception of black changes. So,
but you can adjust the brightness with the remote control.
So that's important. So if you're going out to IKEA or whatever, or B&Q, and you're buying these strips and putting them behind your TV, that is a disadvantage because it tricks the eye and you start to lose a lot of shadow detail. So you need something where you can adjust the light behind the TV so you get to the right level, so your eye's seeing everything it's supposed to see, but at the same time not getting tired. The other thing is you can't stick it on a red, blue, green, or any other color wall, really, because you're going to change your perception of colors, Steve.
You could do it, but unfortunately you're going to end up with a red or blue or whatever light behind and this is an interesting thing, because our color vision, or our vision in total, our vision is almost entirely based on our brain's interpretation of what the eye
it's made up. It's made up.
It's all made up by the brain. It's all about context. Context can change everything. So if you look at contrast, so we talked about bias lighting being a way of perhaps improving contrast of a display if it's not particularly great. And like you said, Phil, not too bright, so you end up crushing everything, but enough to give you something to contrast the blacks on the TV against the light around the edges of the TV, makes it look like it's brighter. And that's just a contextual thing. There's an optical illusion that I'm sure you've seen, Phil, where it's a cone on a checkerboard and there's a shadow across the checkers. And there's one checker, you will bet your pension's black, but it isn't, it's white. But the brain looks at it, thinks it should be black, and it sees black. It's not, it's white. And you can take that checker, move it away outside of the shadow, and it's white. But
that's our one of your ISF calibration course right there. That's the first thing you get shown.
And the same thing, sorry, go on, Phil.
Yeah, it's just how the brain fills in the gaps, basically.
But it fills in the gaps. So that's a contrast trick. And the same thing applies to colors. Our brains will see. So if, for example, like I'd say almost all TVs in their out of the box mode have far too much blue and white. They do that to make it look like it's whiter. It's an optical illusion. It's not actually whiter, it's actually slightly blue, but the brain thinks, oh, that looks really white. And they do the same thing with detergents. They'll put blue dye in to make your whites look whiter than white, which is actually because they're slightly blue. Now, if you spend a lot of time looking at an image with a lot of blue in it, as soon as you take that blue out, it starts to look red because the brain's looking for that blue that's no longer there, and it's got used to it. It'll take a while to adjust, which is one of the things we talked about before when it comes to calibrating a a TV, because
Yeah.
D65 is a much more neutral white.
Well, D65 is actually yellow though, if you're used to looking at a blue white.
Yeah.
So if you're used to looking at standard or vivid mode or whatever, and you suddenly change to cinema or THX or ISF or whatever, you immediately think, isn't that dull? And doesn't it look really yellow? But video white is basically, and what they base it on is the midday sun looking at a white piece of paper under the midday sun. It's not
In
white,
Europe.
it's yellow. Yeah, not in the UK. No, it's never sunny in the UK, but
In Paris, I suspect. And so that's what D65 is. It's the industry standard for the color of white, and that's what these the LEDs in the MediaLight bias light it hits D65 exactly. Perfect. Now, as you said, Phil, that's great if you've got a white wall behind the TV. You'll get the D65 will illuminate the edges of the TV and reflect off the wall behind. If you've got a red wall behind your TV or a blue wall, it's going to essentially reflect back that blue or red light, and your brain will then be comparing the image on the screen with a surrounding of red or blue or whatever, and that will affect how you're perceiving the colors on the screen. And one of the most interesting sort of examples of color perception is brown. Brown doesn't exist. Brown is dark orange. And there's a great video by a guy who he's called Technology Connections. He's an American guy. He did a great video about this. He actually had a black background and what looks like what is a dark orange square. As soon as he puts a white background behind it, you see brown. And that's how video delivers brown. It's essentially very dark orange. So it's not just the difference between green and red, but also it's the luminance of the image that changes how it's perceived. It's just one of those things. It's like it's a language thing as much as it is a conceptual thing, a contextual thing rather. Sorry, is because orange, for example, didn't exist until people brought back oranges. Before that, it was red. I mean, if you look at a Robin Redbreast hasn't got a red breast; it's got an orange breast. But there was no word for orange; it was just red. Same with redheads; they're clearly not redheads; they've got orange hair. But again, there was no word for orange until people discovered orange as the fruit, and then that became the color.
This is along the lines of the dogs can't look up speech from
they can look up.
Fair enough, but you need to get a T-shirt, Steve, with no such thing as brown.
There is no brown.
There is no brown.
There is no spoon, and there is no brown.
There is no brown.
Anyway, but going back to Phil's point, with a slight diversion for entertainment purposes only, but color around the TV will change your perception of the colors on the TV. So beware of that as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Which, Ambilight that's on Philips, great if you use it as a bias light.
If you like that, fill your boots. But
it's all built in. You can do the ISF thing where it's just a bias light and you can adjust the brightness and so on. But it does also follow music or follow the video, and you can turn your living room into a nightclub if you want to. It might work as a gamer because it gives you a bit of peripheral
sense of immersion.
So it might work that way. But in terms of watching films and so on, you just want to buy a light.
It can get very psychedelic, but
probably works for Doctor Strange.
Well, it is it is a Dutch brand after all. So, right. So moving on, Klipsch The Fives powered speakers. Ed's going to do it in 3.5 minutes.
Oh God, I don't even need that. The review is up, and I cover all of the things. Basically, Klipsch has taken their powered speaker concept, which I tested at some affordable ones a little while ago, called the R41. All this is the same basic principle, but they've tidied up the chassis. It looks smarter. It's more nicely. It is better built. The controls are easier to access, and the functionality has been improved. Critical to that is that there's now an HDMI ARC socket, so you can use this in lieu of a soundbar. Now, obviously, there's no Atmos, there's no virtual surround. What you do get is a surprising amount of bass for what are two relatively small speakers, and the fact that it can destroy any of them for music. There's a good quality 24192 USB input on there. There's decent Bluetooth. There's a phono stage if you want to connect a record player, which they seem keen on, so there you go. And it works well enough if that's what blows your frock up. It's a really nicely thought out product. If you want, they're £830, and if you want to spend 830 quid on a system for boosting the sound of your television and playing music, they are exceptionally good, and they will go toe to toe with equivalent price stereo separate systems. What they don't have, of course, is any meaningful scope to upgrade them. What you get in the box is what you get to use going forward, but they are extremely impressive products. The only thing I'll add, as I still have more than 3.5 minutes, a reasonable amount of time left, is I know many people who use the forums do not read instruction manuals because it is an insult to masculinity. I'm really glad I did with this one, because they ship with the enhanced bass mode on, which boosts their performance at low volume levels, and it really works very effectively at low volume levels. It does mean, of course, they sound like a bag of spanners when you turn the volume up, and unless you check the manual and know that the enhanced bass mode is on and how to turn it off, you probably find they're going to be a disappointing £830 purchase. So worth checking that one. But no, otherwise a really well thought out, clever and an effective product. As I've got a moment left, can I just say what will now happen on Wednesday podcast is at 7:30 I disappear upstairs to turn my son's light out because it's time for him to go to sleep. I went upstairs this evening and he was reading the Vital Guide to Fighting Aircraft of World War II. So if there was any doubt about his paternity up until this point, I think we've probably established that, yeah, he's my son. So he's 6, incidentally, as well, and he was busy reading it, which I'm quite chuffed about. He doesn't do fiction, just books about planes.
I saw your tweet the other day that he actually asked to go to a museum.
He did, yes, with planes in it, obvs. So yes, if he wants to go to a museum, if your 6-year-old physically asks to go somewhere where he's in danger of learning something, you go for it. Don't fight it, just go with it. So okay. Yeah, I did. So that was all good. And I suppose the other thing I forgot to say, I've also purchased my new work laptop, which is turning up shortly. I will have, I don't know, Phil, you've got a 4K screen on the last Mac that you bought, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, it's Retina, so it's
Retina. This one's a 5K that I'm looking at the minute, but that's the iMac. My MacBook, I think, is a Retina display.
So I have got my laptop turning up, and I have decided to go with Dolby Vision, so it's a full 4K HDR capable laptop screen. So I imagine that all the icons are going to be really, really tiny, and I'll have to make them all big so I can see what's going on. But no, so that's turning up as well. So yeah, that's going on, and I haven't forgotten the music project. I'm going to be able to start doing some proper work with that once we've got awards put to bed.
Yeah, we've got our awards coming up very soon, probably end of October. So we're all working very hard towards that at the moment. So yeah, things will be on hold for at least the next few weeks.
I'm assaulted by a cat.
Yeah, we saw that. Just very quickly, some questions before we move on to movies and software, I should say, not just movies. Do you think LCD is pretty much over as a high fidelity TV technology? Is it time to move everything across to OLED type tech for better picture consistency and so on? That's from Gordon Wheeler. Basically, Gordon, manufacturers had a go with LCD. Samsung are still putting a lot of budget into LCD. They're moving it up to 8K and so on. So certainly from that side of things, and TCL as well, they are very much still proponents of LCD. Everybody else, maybe barring some of the Sony models, it's all about budget. It's all about who they're getting their panels from. And it's about having an LCD TV in the range rather than taking the R&D and developing it. I think the last time a Japanese manufacturer paid any attention to LCD was Panasonic when they did their 902, which was an absolutely stonking TV in terms of the way that the local dimming worked, the algorithm. I mean, they put a shed load of R&D into that, but it was an expensive TV because they put a shed load of R&D into it and so on. And it was pretty much at the time where OLED became more affordable for manufacturers, and obviously they chose to go down the OLED.
A blow dealt for nothing, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but I mean, LCD can't complain. They've had a fantastic run of nearly 40 years as a consumer display in some form or another. And like I say, Samsung are still developing it as we speak, and they have been for the last few years. Don't know if that'll change moving towards QD OLED and so on. Again, that's still a few years away. So yes, things will change, Gordon, but I still think very much LCD's still got, you know, a good bit of momentum behind it because it is cheap. It's cheap to produce. There's lots of panels, and manufacturers still like to have that in the range. And certainly, if you look at sort of £800 and below, it's the only tech for TVs, whether it's edge lit or backlit or
3D
so on.
Blu-ray Bunkers just asked, does my son listen to obscure German jazz too? No, he doesn't. But one of his favorite songs at the moment, I am not making this up, is Major Tom by Peter Schilling. And the only reason that any sane person will have heard that, it's the theme music for Deutschland 83. Do you remember that channel?
Oh, that's a good show.
It is a great show.
Did you see the sequel? That was also good.
No, was that shown on Channel 4?
No, I don't think. Oh, it might have been on all four. It might have been on.
I'll have to have a look at that because I thoroughly enjoyed that. But anyway, Deutschland 83, the intro music is Major Tom by Peter Schilling. And for reasons I do not fully understand, my son absolutely loves it in German. So yeah, obviously the apple doesn't fall that far from the tree. What can I say?
I don't know. I'm going back to questions, Ed. I'm ignoring you. Right. Hi, guys. The 48-inch OLED, should you go for an LG or Sony? I don't game, just for films, Sky and football. Only concern with Sony is the way they implement DV. I've got to say, I haven't seen the A9 48-inch yet. I don't think anybody has yet. I think they're still waiting on samples coming through. I have got the 48-inch LG just behind me here. 48 inches is exactly the same as the 55 and 65. I found no difference whatsoever.
Does the Sony one have the exciter on it, the sound exciter?
I don't know, Ed, because I haven't seen one yet. And at CES, there wasn't any on display either. So nobody's seen the Sony yet. So I don't know. And I don't know what the performance is going to be like on the Sony. On the A8, which starts at 55 inch, I've got to say Dolby Vision looked a damn sight better than it did last year on the OLEDs. So definitely they've upped the performance there. It's a difficult one because Sony's great for motion, but saying that, LG have upped the game as well for SDR with their implementation 120 hertz back frame insertion. So which the Sony will have as well under motion flow. So I don't know is the honest answer at this moment in time, because only the LG's on the market and I've only seen the LG. So sorry about that, Kevin. It's the best answer you're going to get out of me tonight.
Yeah.
Any chance we get the new Google Nest audio speaker just announced for testing? I can try. Google tend to blow hot and cold about stuff that gets sent out. I mean, they said when they launched the Chromecast, the original Chromecast audio, they sent one to everybody, whether you liked it. If you were in any way anything to do with the audio reviewing, they just sent you one on the off chance that you might do something with it. But they haven't repeated that phenomenon in some years now. So I'll see what I can do. This is a short answer.
Gustavo, no, I haven't seen the new Sony projectors yet. I did have an invite to go and see them before they were announced at IFA, but it meant traveling all the way down to Weybridge and going into their HQ and so on. And because of COVID and so on, I decided it wasn't the best thing to do. But we should have them in for review, hopefully, very soon. So that's all the questions for the time being. If you do have questions, you want to ask questions, you can also make a donation at the same time. Do that and it'll pop up and we'll ask the question and answer it for you. So that's streamlabs.com/AVForums. And of course, if you want to become a regular patron, £3 a month, you can do that through patreon.com/AVForums. That's it for hardware. We'll be back in a sec with software very soon. So with it being the end of the month, as we move into software, we're going to make Kaz and Tom sit a little bit longer without saying anything, because we're going back to Ed for his playlist, vinyl, and album of the month.
Right. I won't take very long about this because it's time for the video boys to start having their moment. This isn't album of the month. We've been doing albums weekly, so this is another weekly recommendation. Everything Breaks the Line by Telepop Music. Telepop Music were around between 2000 and 2005 mainly. They released 2 albums, one of which was very good, one of which wasn't. Then they farted out a couple of singles and disappeared. And then randomly they've reappeared again with this album, which I wasn't expecting. And even better than that, I wasn't expecting it to be any good. And it is.
I bloody love it.
It's good, isn't it? So that's on all the major streaming services. The one thing you can't do at the moment is buy a physical copy. Whether that will change, I don't know. But at the moment, it's streaming and download only. But that's how most of us listen to music. So that's fine.
Yeah, it's been on heavy rotation here.
Yeah, it's a solid effort. So that's album of the week. It joins the other weekly albums. There will be albums of the week following from here. Vinyl release of the month is a more heavyweight undertaking. That is the newly re-released, remastered, re-edited, and all the bells and whistles, Sign of the Times Super Deluxe vinyl box set from Prince. This is, there's no getting around it. It's £300. I mean, look, I found you a site where there's some money off, which takes it down to only very expensive, but it is the authoritative everything to do with Sign of the Times. And there's a huge amount of material there where if you're my brother, who is a fanatical Prince fan and who has scoured bootlegs for 15 years, he's heard quite a bit of it. But for sane people, no, this is the first outing for a lot of this content, and it's been done by people that care. It's a genuinely high quality reference work. So if you are a Prince fan, I mean, obviously there's a CD version as well, but come on, that's got to be worth a go. So that's the vinyl release of the month. And then finally, I need to make sure I get the name right. Playlist, it's been quiet again, but Cobuzz surprised me with, where's it gone? They have released a playlist called The Sound of Sweden. And you're thinking, oh, it's ABBA. It's a reminder that Sweden is a pop music leviathan. And they have done enormous amounts of stuff. It's a really, really good listen. Lots of interesting stuff. Some I was familiar with, some I wasn't. Thoroughly enjoyable way to remember that they are really, really, great at producing really catchy music. So, yeah, well worth a go.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Ed. So let's move on to movies and let's have a film review. I'm not sure who's doing this film review. Is it Tom or is it Kaz?
It's me. Blood and Money, Tom Berenger. It's basically what would happen if you took something like Rambo and had it acted out by a normal dad. So Tom Berenger is, I don't know, pushing 160, and he looks the part, and he's stuck it out in the
chubby these days,
snowy wilderness. He doesn't look too bad in this. He does look a little bit unhealthy, but I think that's the character rather than him.
Rambo first pint.
He's just he's a bit of a broken man, and he gets into some trouble in the wilderness, and he has to kind of defend himself. It's more of a character piece, but what I liked about it, which was refreshing, is I could imagine my dad doing this, fumbling his shots with a gun, not really standing a chance against people a quarter of his age, but somehow toughing it out. I mean, it's a nicely put together, very low budget flick for him to do, but it's not one of these cash cows, sniper sequels, or generic films that he churns out where he just pops up as a cameo. He put a little bit of something into it, so I quite like that. So that's a digital release. It's coming in a couple of weeks. Most everything is digital these days, but that's the last thing I've checked out.
It seems like it's got quite a lot in common with Jeremy Saulnier's Blue Ruin, what he did before Green Room.
Yes.
The sort of totally fallible, not particularly great loser.
We're supposed to nod and go, oh, at this point, because I've never heard that until you said
I've seen Blue Ruin.
It's a good movie, and it's about being shit at revenge movies, basically.
It's basically the revenge movie that would happen if I was trying to get revenge.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. It was nice to. I mean, it's odd to see it, but it was having someone.
I don't have a very particular set of skills.
It's basically that. Yeah. I won't find you.
Yeah.
Chances are I'll just hurt myself horribly and go home.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing. He'd get hurt, but unlike Stallone, who'd be all grunting and, putting gunpowder in his wounds and setting fire to it and then yelling a bit and then stitching himself up, he just kind of kept going. He didn't really do anything. He'd just be like, oh yeah, I'll have to deal with that later or not. It was nicely put together. But yeah, maybe a little bit too honest. Rambo, it wasn't. But,
Okay.
Nice. Anyway,
yeah,
that's
good stuff. Right, so we've got to do our end of the month best film of the month. So we all get a personal pick on this one. I've actually watched a new film this month, so it'll be my best and my worst. Because the only new thing I've seen was Enola Holmes. I watched that the other night. I wasn't expecting much from it, and got to say, pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really quite entertaining. So yeah, that'll be my only pick this month.
I need to see that. I keep saying to people that it was filmed just around the corner from where I grew up at Benthall Hall. So even if it's terrible, I'm going to watch it just to be like, been there.
Well, it's not terrible. I found it really quite enjoyable, and I
enjoyed it.
I didn't find it overstayed its welcome either. A lot of people saying it got a bit saggy in the middle. Well, no, I don't think so. I thought it was okay paced, to be honest. And
that's good. I'm not a Millie Bobby Brown person, though. I have to.
Oh well, if you're not, don't watch it then, because it is hard.
It's all her. Right?
It is Millie Bobby Brown. Yeah.
Stranger Things doesn't do it for me. When she was in Godzilla,
she says
terrible movies. That was
she says a bit more than she did in Stranger Things, because she didn't say much in Stranger Things. She's facial expressions, but
she doesn't melt anyone's heads.
No, but the thing is,
unfortunately,
it's a vehicle for her, and she's got star quality. She's gonna go play. If she does well and picks the right things, she'll go far, and she'll be a big Hollywood star. But it is a vehicle for her. So if you don't like her, don't watch it.
I will watch it with the sound off, just so I can see the beautiful architecture.
Okay, so that's my choice. Steve?
Yeah, same as you. Same thing I've seen. That's a new film, and I did enjoy it. So.
Okay, that was easy enough. Ed?
I haven't watched any new films. I did watch Welcome
to 1994.
No, I didn't. No, I watched Welcome to the Punch again on Amazon. I had a surreal, inebriated Skype conversation with Tom, with Phil occasionally sort of chipping in whilst we discussed whether James McAvoy is more attractive than Mark Strong, which of course he isn't, because Mark Strong is a beautiful man.
Incorrect. You're welcome to your wrong opinion.
Mark Strong will be my man of taste.
Yes. And I don't care if he killed me later on. He'd be nice to me in the meantime.
He's a psychopath. That's not.
I don't care.
No,
the Rock would get jealous. Steve.
Look at his face.
Right. Did you see that? Did you see The Rock endorsing Joe Biden wearing this, what I can best be described as a spray-on T-shirt?
Yeah.
My God, he'd been working out. He was enormous. He looked like he was going to explode at any second.
Well, yes, I saw that too. But no, as I say, films, as you know, not a big part of my existence. So I watched a film, and it's only 15 years old. So that's not bad for me.
Okay, Kaz.
Becky, I'd probably go as my number one pick. I mean, there isn't a great deal out at the moment, but I reviewed it on the podcast last month. It's a really good indie flick. Kevin James was scary, and not in a funny way. And yeah, it was good fun. But probably the best film I've watched this month is rewatching Way of the Gun.
Yes!
Christopher McQuarrie's directorial debut before he became famous for doing Mission Impossible films and
I got
endlessly quotable.
My friend saw it at the cinema and walked out halfway through.
Insane.
Was that Sarah Silverman?
So many quotes on regular rotation from that movie. I can promise you a day of retribution you won't live long enough to never forget. It's genius movie.
It is a proper quality movie. It is non-stop quotes. Very nice modern Western. Benicio del Toro, the coolest he's ever been. Ryan Philippe, very good. James Caan. I mean, it's a proper good movie made by a director who went on to big things in Hollywood, but probably won't ever really get his way again when it comes to a movie, because this was basically an indie movie. And he did it before he got tied down by the restrictions commensurate to making like a Jack Reacher movie or making a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie, which they're all great, but this is pure unadulterated, written and directed Christopher McQuarrie. Very good.
I didn't know we were doing films we've rewatched. In that case, then I'd pick
No,
48
Oh, no, no,
hours.
no, no,
That's the
no. We
film
do.
I'd watch this
do
month.
We'll be
not
here all
have
night if we do that.
time,
Yeah.
I watched 48 hours again, and it was absolutely fantastic. Eddie Murphy, just brilliant.
Well, we just did Welcome to the Punch, so I think we could do that again.
Yeah, but that's because it's the only thing I've watched. It's not. It's not a rewatch. It's just
People, we have rules. You need to stick to rules. We need to all come together as a country and stick to the rules. It's best film of the month. Period.
Yeah, but like the rest of the country, we don't know what the rules are because I keep changing.
All right,
every 5 minutes.
Okay, let's get Tom's because we haven't got Tom's yet.
Yeah, it's still, I'm thinking of ending things, which I know a lot of people didn't get on with it. And I've got to hold my hands up and say that I have been a bit bullheaded about it when I've talked about it previously. And yes, it's purposefully very obtuse, very alienating. Calling it pretentious would not be unwarranted. And I've also seen a lot of people say that it drops off about the halfway point once the couple leaves the parents' house. And for sure, the pace does slow to a crawl. I like that meandering stuff. I still found that like tangential conversational stuff interesting. But I guess that I'm saying that I can't in good faith disagree with the criticisms people have of it. I think the reason it got me was I appreciated the purpose of it, basically. Like it was like pieces of a jigsaw to put together. You know, if you've got like you're doing a jigsaw, you've got a blue piece, and you're looking at it thinking, could be river, could be sky, could be part of that guy's blue shirt. You look at the piece on its own, it's very boring. It's just a bit of blue wood. But the interest in it is figuring out how it fits into the picture as a whole. And I think that was what I enjoyed so much about it, because that's my favorite kind of film, really. Like last year, The Lighthouse was probably my favorite movie of the year.
I'm going to watch
4-3. Boo, boo.
I think it's premiering on Sky. Is it Sky or is it Netflix? It's one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to catch up. I'm interested to see it just because there's a lot of
it's a film that has a super interesting goal and tries weird things, and it doesn't quite hit its mark. And so I'm thinking of ending things, and The Lighthouse are both exactly like that. It tries hard and doesn't quite work out, but the reason it doesn't work out is what makes it interesting, I think. It helped that I had like a personal connection to it as well, and there were like elements where I instantly recognized, confusing irrational thinking for rational thinking. But I've got the Rotten Tomatoes scores for it. So the Rotten Tomatoes scores for I'm thinking of ending things were critic score 82%, audience score 46%.
That's about right.
A divisive film. So I would be really, really stupid to carry on with the line that like it's like a masterpiece, because obviously it's not connecting with everyone the way it connected with me, which I think is a huge shame. But it's, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, that's probably something to be grateful for. Because if everyone thought like me, then we'd be than we currently are.
We really would be in trouble. Yeah, absolutely right. So that's best film of the month, best 4K disc of the month. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anything. I haven't bought anything recently. That might change though now that the nights are dark and I'm using the cinema room a bit more. I might change that.
Or you could watch the 150 discs you haven't seen yet.
And all the stuff on Disney Plus I haven't seen yet, and all the stuff on Netflix I need to catch up with. And yeah, okay. Kaz.
Well, it was going to be Full Metal Jacket, but Ghost in the Shell, the original 1995 Ghost in the Shell, landed. I was pleasantly surprised by Full Metal Jacket, but Ghost in the Shell, which I'd read bad reviews about, I'd read that they hadn't done a very good job. I think it looks gorgeous. I think they couldn't have done a better job with a 1995 cartoon, which was cross-animated between original cell animation and I think it's DGA, predecessor to CGI. So kind of an early form of computer animation. They've cleaned it up and they make it look spectacular. I really, it's not flawless, but it never was. But it was very enjoyable rewatching that It's, of course, the film that birthed things like The Matrix. I think Cameron gave it a nod for when he did Avatar. I mean, it's a big landmark.
Steven
sci-fi.
Spielberg too for AI. Not long after, or not long before he made AI, he bought up the rights to it. No, it's after he made AI, and then he bought the rights to Ghost in the Shell. So he was obviously feeling a bit tetchy about people coming after their intellectual property.
But AI was Kubrick, wasn't it, originally?
It was originally,
It was,
that's true. That's true. But Spielberg did the crappy ending.
That figures.
Spoilers.
But yeah, that was that's my pick. I mean, it's a phenomenal movie, like an all-time classic. I know you're never going to watch it, Phil, but
You
but
should, Phil. It's good. It's like the Star Wars of animation.
Why are you assuming that I wouldn't watch it?
I think you've got a lot of things on the list, and it might not be. Have you seen the remake?
Nope.
Yes.
Nope. But I have seen bits of this because it was on a demo disc from a number of years ago. I think it was a DTS demo disc, the Ghost in the Shell, and it looks great. It's just I've never gotten around to watching it. So
yeah, it's
I might.
super important movie. Super important movie.
It's very, very good.
And like Akira, it's probably like the forerunner for introducing anime to like Western audiences. But Ghost in the Shell is the one that you see echoes of it in Hollywood movies all the time.
Okay. Yeah. So that's our 4K disc. It's the same for both, if you were wondering. And Full Metal Jacket got mentioned there as well. Right.
I've got a 4K disc.
Oh, have you? Go on then, Steve. It's not like you.
My choice would be Sherlock Holmes. The Guy Ritchie film. I thought it was a cracking disc. It looked gorgeous. Mark Strong's in it, which is always a good plus point.
Yes, definitely.
And the soundtrack's stellar. It's got a fantastic Hans Zimmer score, and
Downey
Jr. and Jude Law are make for a good.
I did re-enjoy watching those, both of them. I did re-enjoy watching.
But I think the first one's really good.
First one's better.
Tight.
It's
tight.
Yes.
It's got a great plot, some nice twists. It's a really good film. And
the first one's leagues ahead of the second, but watch back to back makes it a much more enjoyable experience. And
did you notice that they
dubbed him in,
Harris
which is really good. Yeah. I think it's they're really good back to back. But yeah, the second one's got a huge flabby middle, which I'm pretty sure is what I said last time. But yeah,
Deja vu. Right. Before we go any further, if you're enjoying this tonight and you're still with us, lots of ifs in there. Don't forget to like this video if you're watching it live, or even if you're watching it during the week. It does help the channel. It helps the video be found by the Google algorithms and the YouTube algorithms, and it pushes it forward, and it can bring new people into AVForums and our little community here. So if you do like the podcast, then please do hit that like button. It really is important. Don't forget as well, you can become a patron and support us on a monthly basis for £3 a month. You can do that through patreon.com/AVForums. And thank you, Gordon Wheeler, who's just become a patron this evening. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
That really is appreciated. Thanks for your support. And of course, if you have any questions this evening before we end the show, you can get them in, and you can also make a donation through streamlabs.com/AVForums. But like I say, the important thing here is to like this video. So please hit the like button. Right, so we're going to wrap up with some film, TV, best of the month, as well as some news on some discs that are coming as well. But I think we've mentioned some of these already, but we're going to do it again because we're in a time loop this evening. So best TV shows of the month. It has to be Air Crash Investigation. I watched the recording from Monday night this evening. It was 3 ways to crash your plane into the side of a mountain.
Oh, that's a cheery one.
Yeah, so that was entertaining.
Presumably, it includes the German wings method of crashing a plane.
No, it didn't include that one. Actually,
well, that's
that was one. It was a side of mountains, normally in the snow, with where the pilots got lost because it was low visibility and so on, and they didn't trust their instruments, and but 3 cases of plummeting into the side of the mountains. I think one of them had some survivors. So is that really an accident? No.
If it's a constructive total loss, it's an accident.
Yeah. Tom's looking a bit puzzled there. It's an old Twitter joke, Tom. So bit of an in joke there. But that's it for me. I haven't watched much other apart from Wheeler Dealers, and it's just the same thing every week. So no point mentioning that at the minute. Right. So There's a new series of Forged in Fire. It's not the one with the judges now. It's just the idiots. So we're back to the normal idiots turning up rednecks.
Quenching in water.
Quenching. Yeah, really good. Right.
Brilliant.
Kaz.
Yep, I saw a new TV series on Apple Plus, Tehran.
I started watching that as well. Quite good.
Yep, Israeli. Never heard of it. Have you heard of it before, Steve?
No, bizarrely though, the house opposite me, they just sold and moved, and then the new people who just moved in came over to say hello. And it turns out that their son is the producer of Tehran. And he was talking about it, and I said, "Oh yeah, I must watch that." It was on, so that's how I ended up watching it.
That's 6 degrees of separation gone
Yeah,
bananas.
that's funny because after I did the review, I think Kumari messaged me to say that one of her friends had been involved in the production and read the review and was really chuffed about it. But I mean, I hadn't heard about it, and Apple TV clearly aren't very good at promoting good stuff on their.
They aren't, because
platform.
one of their best shows is Ted Lasso, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. And again, I think I'm the only person that's been
watching it. Yes, I don't know why
literally
they do
the
that.
only person in the country.
But this is a little bit 24, a little bit Homeland, but
very Homeland.
Yeah, very tense and very original. I think it's a Mossad agent who gets trapped behind enemy lines
in the titular city.
Yeah, and it's a world of pain there. It is not a good place to be if you're a woman. It's not a good place to be if you're a Mossad agent. You know, it's
the opening episode with the couple who are Israeli couple who are on a plane flying through Jordan because it's cheaper to get to India on their holidays, and then the plane has to land in Tehran. It's so tense.
It is. It's just a couple on holiday, and they're interrogated like they're spies.
Yeah,
it's horrific. But it's very obviously none of this is based on real life. I want to make that very clear. But it's very well done. Excellent, tense viewing, and an unexpected surprise from Apple. So that's my vote.
Okay, Tom.
Probably Lovecraft Country. I mean, it started last month technically, but I wrote a review of it the beginning of September after 3 episodes, and I wish I hadn't scored it then, because if I'd waited a bit longer, I probably would have scored it even higher, because it is amazing. Anybody who's got as far as like the 5th or 6th episode, the range of like pulp horror and adventure tropes in it has just kept widening as the series has gone on. There's like an adventure Indiana Jones episode in there early on, and it's just
it's like a national treasure, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, it was one of the most entertaining hours of TV that I've sat through in ages.
I really enjoyed the one that takes place in Korea during the Korean War. I thought that was really good as well.
They just, each episode, they're interwoven really nicely, but as a standalone thing, every single episode is just a fun bag of genre tricks, and it's great.
But with an underlying, quite serious message.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
About racism.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Some of the tensest bits are the real racism.
You do realize that we're not print media. This is the internet, so you could go in and update your review.
Change your score.
Update the review and republish it. You know, that is possible. It's not like
now you've seen more episodes. You can,
I'm not going to touch it. No, death of the author. Once it's printed, that's it.
It's not printed. Unless you're printing it out on your printer, it's not printed.
I mean, I am doing that as well, yeah.
Yeah, thought as much. Right. Is that everybody? Ed, what have you been watching?
I have been also watching the Air Crash Investigation. Haven't watched the latest one yet, but that's all good. I've watched the Great British Bake Off. I don't have a problem with admitting that. I enjoy it. I know that Tom enjoyed the cake as well of the Blink 182 guy.
The cake of Tom DeLonge. I wanted it as my background this week because I loved it so much. Both that somebody's celebrity hero, is the lead singer from Blink 182, and that they made such a terrible job of recreating his face.
I would also say it hasn't been brought up. I have also been watching the Great American Barbecue Showdown on Netflix, which again is not highbrow television, but it passes the time. So those are my contributions. As I've said before, I watch a single program an evening whilst I eat, and then otherwise I listen to music. So I'm a happy camper.
Okay, Steve.
Aside from Tehran, Lovecraft Country has already been mentioned, of course. I'm still thoroughly enjoying Prodigal Son. It's cheesy and silly, but I think Michael Sheen's great in anything he's in, frankly. And Tom Payne's also really good. And I'm, after this podcast is over, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely going to settle down and watch The Comey Rule, because anything that involves giving Trump a kicking, I'll happily watch. But Mike,
sorry, Steve, it's interesting. I'm setting out to watch the rest of it as soon as we finish here, and I'll be writing a review of it tomorrow. But yeah, go into it with a skeptical eye, I would say.
And but the show, I've already mentioned it. My favorite show is Ted Lasso on Apple.
Good. I will get round to that, but I don't have Apple TV built in on my TV, so it's an effort to watch Apple TV. And I'm lazy, so what can I say?
Yeah, I'm waiting until there's enough there that I could do it when they've got a free month on, just go in and just blitz it. But that's not going to happen for a while, I don't think. Anyway, that's it for our best of the months. So we just need to do our TV news. So the only bit of TV news worth mentioning is that Top Gear's back this Sunday, and it's changed to BBC One. Ooh. It's never been on BBC One. It's always been BBC Two at 8 o'clock on a Sunday. So it's interesting that the BBC are showing a bit of faith in it and moving it over to the main channel. Got to say the last two series with the three of them, the new, it's lads TV from the 90s, really, if you boil it down. It's really entertaining. I like it. I think there's a bit of chemistry. It's silly. It's stupid. The big laughs last year were, when they went to the golf driving ranges and shooting balls at them, dressed in, armor and all the rest of it, and dressed up as T-Rexes and stuff. It was really quite nothing to do with cars. So that's back on the 4th this Sunday. So it should be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how long it stays on BBC One. I guess that's.
I think it's much a reflection of the limited content available to the I would also just very quickly props to Freddie Frintoff for the public discussion of his issues with bulimia. Men don't talk enough about stuff like this, so anything that raises awareness of that, I'm all for. So kudos to him. I'll watch it, and of course I'll be able to watch it for real rather than watching it after the Sunday podcast, which will be very surreal. I've
got to say, I didn't have much time for Flintoff before Top Gear and before that documentary. I've seen another side of him now. Guy's got kahunas on him. Some of the things he's done, like that bungee jump off the dam and the cut of Jesus, you wouldn't get me doing that. So yeah, I absolutely right. Anything else TV wise that people are looking forward to? I mean, I know the obvious ones at the end of the month, end of October. We're all waiting forward for and looking forward to that. Bit of Star
I
Wars
heard Spitting Image is coming back.
It is. They're already receiving flack for their their puppets.
I'm not surprised. Yeah,
well, they wouldn't be doing it right if they weren't getting flack for their puppets, would they?
Yeah.
Trump looks.
Wait till they open their mouths. Trump looks like a Spitting Image puppet in real life.
Yeah, the scenes in the trailer with Trump and Boris Johnson.
There was an interesting documentary on it. It was a couple of years ago now. It was on BBC4. It might still be on iPlayer. Looking at the influence that it had the first time around, Spitting Image, and how the puppets actually became better known than the actual politicians that they were sending up, and that people couldn't look at the likes of Thatcher in the later years without seeing her as a puppet and seeing her cabinet as they were depicted within, and it was really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
it had a tour around the workshop as well, didn't it? It was really,
yeah.
I'd agree. I mean, I saw it. I must have seen it when I was a kid, and they had John Major, and all he used to do was sit in a black and white room with his wife,
Mr. Grey,
and a plate of dinner, and he would have nothing to say to his wife except look at his plate and go, "The peas are round today, dear. They're very round," and that would be their entire dinner conversation. That's what I know John Major for. So I think you're right.
Bizarrely, it turned out in real life he was having an affair with Edwina Curry.
Yeah, it was a very
made better peas.
So yeah, I mean, I as I say, it's sealed away on BritBox, which is neither supported by my television natively nor. I mean, I've got subscriptions to just about everything else.
Yeah, no one's going to subscribe to.
I'm going to leave it for now. So sorry.
Oh, I forgot to say earlier on, obviously, reviewing Android TV, and you raised this the other week, Steve, with Now TV.
They've added
So
Now
Android-
TV, haven't they?
They've added Now TV this
Yeah,
week, so
just
I know it's
recently.
on the Sony TVs, Android TVs, and I would
Oh,
assume that it's
thank
going
God
to.
for that. I don't have to keep going back and forth to my PlayStation to watch my Now account. Jesus.
So, so it should
Yeah,
pop
only
up on
about
all
6
Androids.
years
soon.
too late, boys. Well done.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, anything else that we need to do before we go to the final round of questions? And I don't think there's
Oh,
much
movie
question.
news. Sacha Baron Cohen secretly filmed a Borat sequel during lockdown. So Borat 2 is
How do we
dropping.
keep that? I didn't notice Borat running around.
I have no idea, but he has promised that it will be released on Amazon Prime before the election. So that's all we know about it. Is that
Excellent.
he has made it. He made it in secret. No one knew it was happening, but it's there and it's ready to come out.
Talk about balls the size of church bells. That man has got some serious
Yeah.
cojones on him.
Did you see
especially the film in the US? Some of the things you're thinking,
Who's going to
"You-
get
you're
shot
gonna
one day if he's not careful?
you know?
I better not Google Sacha Baron Cohen.
No,
Oh,
don't Google
I
anybody.
need him because he's in the trial of the Chicago 7, which I'm looking forward to on Netflix next month.
Yeah, sure.
Along with the Haunting of Blythe Manor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff. Right. I think that's everything. I've been through the questions. There are no more questions this evening. But if you're listening later in the week, of course, you can send us a question at any time to podcast@avforums.com. And please send something in, because I haven't had any emails come in yet on the podcast AV Forums account, and I feel right lonely. So, yeah, you can do that during the week if you're listening to us. Right. Okay. Competition for the podcast.
Yep, to win a Sony Blu-ray bundle including Venom and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, use the following question to select the correct answer. Just to point out, thus far, 100% of the entrants who have guessed the answer have guessed it wrong. So it's worth waiting for the question. Who directed Venom is the question. So clearly, yeah.
And if you've entered that competition already, tough luck.
Yeah, I know. It's like that multiple choice. They always tell you you've got like a 40% chance of getting the right answer, and you proved them wrong.
What's the best bit about Venom, Kaz?
Yeah,
the end.
The fact it
Tom
ends.
Hardy arguing with himself. Maybe?
No, it is the terrible Eminem song at the end.
Oh, okay, if you say so.
How that film made $850 million is beyond me.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know why they're doing another one. But...
And I think that's a big enough bombshell to end the
I'd say
podcast
so.
this week. Right. Okay. So that's it for this week. My thanks to Steve Withers,
Is it that hard to make us look cool?
Ed Selley.
And you can tell Rolling Stone magazine that my last words were, "I'm on drugs."
Tom Davies.
Feck you.
And Kaz Harlow.
I don't think this is a brains kind of an operation.
Thanks once again to Gordon Wheeler. Thank you very much for becoming a patron. Don't forget, all this week you can still join us on patreon.com/AVForums for £3 a month. You can also send your questions in along with a donation of any size you like to streamlabs.com/AVForums. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please hit that like button. If you're still around, please hit the like button. If you're watching during the week, please hit it again. That's the most important thing you can do. Also, hit the bell and click subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark avforums.com for latest reviews, news, and videos. And of course, leave us a 5-star rating on any of the services that you use where you can rate us. It'd be appreciated. My name is Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for watching yet again, and we'll see you next Wednesday.